Imagine a family that lives as if they have a personal cheat code for reality. They don't launch crypto, don't sell startups, and have never worked a day for the man. Their palaces cost more than the budgets of small countries. Their surname is a brand that brings the economy billions, and the children of this family can crash a major retailer's website with a single cardigan. And yet, no, these are not trillionaires. The combined wealth of the British royal family is estimated at roughly $28 billion. It seems silly to say only when talking about tens of billions, but it's far from the coveted trillion that tabloids love to put in their headlines. So where did the myth of the trillion-dollar monarchy come from? Why is the world convinced these people live on a level inaccessible even to most billionaires? Right now, we will break down how their real money works, how much fashion, tourism, and media hype generates for them, what loopholes they use to bypass taxes, and most importantly, whether this entire machine justifies its existence from the point of view of an ordinary person who pays taxes and at most sees the Windsors on their phone screen. Stay until the end. In the finale, you will decide for yourself, is this a genius business model or the most expensive TV series on the planet paid for by the country? Welcome to the channel for the wealthiest. Luxury life. When a cardigan is worth billions. Let's start not with the king, but with those who don't even understand what's happening yet, the children. Little Prince George appears in an official photo in a simple t-shirt. No luxury, just an ordinary mid-range brand. An hour after the photo is published, the brand's website crashes, the right size is unavailable, and the marketers open champagne. This phenomenon was called the Prince George effect. Analysts at Brand Finance estimated its potential economic contribution at approximately £2.4 billion over his lifetime through fashion, tourism, media, and advertising contracts surrounding his image. But it gets even more interesting. Princess Charlotte enters the game. She appears in official photographs in a yellow cardigan from the John Lewis chain, and that cardigan disappears from shelves in a day. An ordinary children's item from a mass market store, and it turns into a golden stock everyone wants. Researchers calculated Charlotte's potential economic effect is roughly £3.2 billion. That is, $1 billion more than George's. The reason is simple. The women's and girls' fashion market is larger than the men's, and more brands, collections, and advertising campaigns are tied to it. And this is before the children even become adults, start wearing adult brands, and boost tourism with their presence at events. Now add their mother, Catherine, the Princess of Wales. Even before the birth of her children, her effect was estimated at over £1 billion for the British fashion industry. The dress she wore to announce her engagement, a blue one by the brand Issa, sold out instantly, spawned a wave of copies, and launched the trend for the little blue dress. Any of her outfits is a signal. What she wears today will be in shop windows tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow will be sold out on both originals and copies. Essentially, the Windsors have their own live marketplace, where any public appearance is a national-scale advertising campaign. And here, the trillion-dollar logic begins to at least somewhat add up. It doesn't matter how much is in their accounts if every photo can move markets. The king who doesn't pay 40% tax. Now let's move from children's cardigans to money that really makes your head spin. Charles's personal wealth. King Charles III is rich not only in crown, his personal wealth is estimated at roughly $860 million, and considering broader assets and inheritances, up to $2+ billion. Part of this is the inheritance from his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, Balmoral Castle in Scotland, the Sandringham Estate in Norfolk, together hundreds of millions of dollars in private land, forests, cottages, hunting grounds, rivers, and lakes. An ordinary Briton in such a situation would pay a 40% inheritance tax. Charles does not. Under a special 1993 agreement, everything passed from monarch to monarch is exempt from this tax. Translating into human terms, with one signature on a document, the state gifted Charles savings of hundreds of millions of dollars, which did not go into the budget but remained within the dynasty. This isn't just being rich, this is living in a mode where the rules of the game are rewritten for you. Next, Prince William. When Charles became king, William automatically received control of the Duchy of Cornwall, a giant land and investment holding created back in 1337. Today, the duchy's area is over 52,000 hectares according to the official report. The estimated value of its assets is over £1 billion. Annual income is about £23 million of private income for the heir. The portfolio includes farms, forests, commercial real estate, almost all of the Isles of Scilly, residential houses, shops, restaurants, business centers. All this cannot simply be sold off and the money moved to the Caymans. The task is different: to maintain, develop, rent out, and pass further down the chain of inheritance. Plus, William receives inheritances from Diana, the Queen Mother, and other personal assets. The bottom line, a person born not just wealthy, but built into a centuries-old income-generating machine. If a billionaire entrepreneur takes risks, invests, and can lose everything, here the model is different. Don't build, don't destroy, but carefully milk what was created before you. When the wind at sea pays for the palaces. The most unexpected sponsor of the royal family's life is not oil, not casinos, but the wind in the North Sea. There is a structure called the Crown Estate, a giant portfolio of assets that formally does not belong to the king personally, but is managed in the interest of the nation. It includes commercial real estate in central London and other cities, land across the country, coastal zones, and most importantly, offshore wind farm leasing rights in maritime areas. In the 2024/25 financial year, the Crown Estate brought in about £1.15 billion in net profit, mainly due to one-off option payments for the right to build giant wind farms, the so-called fourth leasing round. Over the last 10 years, the Crown Estate has transferred over £5 billion to the Treasury. And here's where the monarchy comes into play. Almost all this money goes into the budget, but 12% of the profit, it used to be 25%, is returned to the royal family as the sovereign grant, an official annual payment covering expenses for palaces, receptions, travel, staff, and office. For 2025 to 2026, the grant amount is set at £132 million. So the scheme looks like this. The Crown Estate leases the sea for wind farms to energy giants, pay billions for the leases till the money goes to the treasury, to a portion returns to the king as an official salary. Supporters of the monarchy love the formula. Look, the Crown Estate brings the state many times more than the king receives. The monarchy pays for itself. Critics ask a different question. If the Crown Estate is a national asset, why is its profit tied to the expenses of one family at all? And this is no longer accounting, but ideology. A day in the life of the Queen, when a bath is a state matter. To understand how a family living on these cash flows lives, let's look at a day in the life of Queen Elizabeth II, the woman who kept the system working for 70 years. Morning, 7:30. Today on BBC Radio 4 is turned on in the bedroom. A servant brings tea, Earl Grey with milk, no sugar, on a silver tray, and a fresh linen handkerchief with a monogram. While the Queen takes her first sips of tea, her maid prepares a bath to a strictly specified depth, 7 inches. The water temperature is checked with a wooden thermometer. Any deviation, and everything is prepared anew. When the Queen travels on the royal train, drivers are given instructions in advance not to drive over particularly uneven sections of track around 7:30 in the morning, so the water in her bath doesn't splash. One person, one bath, and a train schedule is adjusted for this. Next, breakfast, wardrobe parade, up to 5 changes a day, and the most important, the red boxes. These are special diplomatic cases with government documents. Every day, except Christmas and Easter, the monarch is obliged to review ministers' reports, bills, secret memos, telegrams. Legally, the king decides almost nothing alone, but sees everything, and leaves his note, question, or cautious not approved. After lunch, meetings, audiences, ceremonies, award presentations. At 5 p.m., tea with crustless sandwiches, scones, jam, and the signature Dundee cake. From the outside, this looks like a sweet ritual. Inside, it is the structure holding up an empire of hundreds of residences, thousands of employees, and millions of eyes watching every move of the crown. Number 1. Collections stronger than money. An ordinary billionaire can buy a football club, a super yacht for $500 million, an island in a warm sea. The monarchy owns a different type of wealth, the kind that is not for sale in principle. The Royal Collection of Art. The royal collection includes about 550 drawings by Leonardo da Vinci, the largest and most important collection of his graphic works in the world, works by Michelangelo, Raphael, Rembrandt, and other masters, over 1 million items of art, furniture, tapestries, and relics valued at many billions of dollars. For an ordinary person, seeing one original Leonardo drawing is the event of a lifetime. For the Windsors, walking through a hall where dozens of such works hang on the walls is simply the way to the elevator. Number 1. The crown jewels. Then come the coronation regalia. The Koh-i-Noor diamond, 105.6 carats, one of the most famous stones in history. Its valuation ranges in the hundreds of millions, but due to its weight and history, the stone is effectively considered priceless. Today it is set in the Queen Consort's crown, and it is surrounded by political disputes. India, Pakistan, and other countries demand its return as part of colonial heritage. The Cullinan diamond, the largest ever found, over 3,000 carats before cutting. It was cut into 105 separate stones, whose combined value is estimated at around $2 billion. The two largest adorn the royal scepter and the imperial state crown. The entire collection of crown jewels is estimated roughly at $4 to $8 billion, stored in the Tower of London, and cannot be sold, cannot be pawned, legally belongs not to a person, but to the state. This is wealth that existed before the current monarch and will likely outlive dozens more generations, even if the monarchy in its current form disappears. Palaces, castles, and thousands of hectares. Now to what many people watch such videos for. Real estate at the level of, this isn't a house, it's a server center of history. Buckingham Palace. Valuation, about $4.9 billion. Area, almost 77,000 square meters, 775 rooms, among them 19 staterooms, 52 royal and guest bedrooms, 188 staff bedrooms, 92 offices, 78 bathrooms. The irony is that after an expensive renovation, Charles doesn't even plan to live there permanently. The palace is turning more into a headquarters and showroom for the monarchy than a home. Windsor, Balmoral, Sandringham, Windsor Castle. Over 1,000 years of history. Officially the oldest continuously inhabited castle in the world. Balmoral. 50,000 acres of Scottish hills, forests, and rivers. The family summer base, hunting, picnics, the place where Elizabeth II died. Sandringham, another 19,000 acres of private land in Norfolk, the dynasty's traditional Christmas base, plus Kensington Palace, Claret's House, palaces in Edinburgh and across the country, each worth hundreds of millions or billions on its own. On the world map, this looks like a game of Monopoly where one player has already bought half the expensive properties and will never put them up for sale again. Privileges. When the law is what isn't written about you. The monarch's official power in the 21st century is limited, but the privileges that come with this role still look like a cheat code. The monarch doesn't need a passport. All British passports state that the document is issued on behalf of His or Her Majesty. The king simply has nothing to show at the border. He is the one on whose behalf passports are issued. The monarch doesn't get a driver's license, but can formally drive a car. A criminal case cannot be launched against him/her in the usual way. A separate constitutional mechanism is required for that. From old laws, completely surreal privileges remain. For example, under an ancient 1324 act, the monarch owns all whales, dolphins, and sturgeon caught within a 3-mile zone from the British coast. Formally, this is called royal fish. In practice, the king doesn't run along the beach chasing dolphins, but the very fact that such a law exists is a perfect illustration of how deeply the idea of special status is embedded in the system. Number 1. What it costs to protect the king. Official figures for security are not disclosed, but independent estimates cite hundreds of millions of pounds a year for the safety of the royal family. Personal protection, motorcades, location vetting, closing entire blocks during events, helicopters, protecting residences from physical and cyber attacks. When you see the smiling king or prince on TV, remember, outside the frame, dozens of people are working at that moment, having scanned everything in advance, from the sewers under the square to the last window in the neighboring house. This isn't just a show, but a very expensive security operation, the bill for which flies into the same basket of budget expenditures. How Charles cleans up the family. The Andrew case. No family, even the wealthiest, is immune from scandals. The difference is only in how many people will discuss it. In the case of the Windsors, the whole world. Prince Andrew, once called the Queen's favorite son, became the family's main toxic asset after his friendship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, accusations of sexual assault by Virginia Giuffre, which he denies, and subsequent legal settlements and publications bringing this story up again. For a monarchy that sells the world an image of stability, morality, and tradition, this is a blow. In the 2000s, Andrew is stripped of public duties, military titles, and the right to use the title His Royal Highness. In 2025, Charles goes even further, initiates the process of stripping him of key privileges and effectively evicting him from Royal Lodge, a 30-room mansion in Windsor Great Park where Andrew lived for over 20 years. A separate level of outrage was caused by the rental scheme. Andrew invested about £1 million for a long lease agreement, while the official rent may have been a symbolic 1 peppercorn a year, while ordinary Britons struggled with rising prices and mortgages. Comparison with the past. The last time a British prince was stripped of his title at such a level was during World War I, when a relative of the king fighting for Germany was effectively declared an enemy. Charles is sending a simple signal to the entire family. If you turn into reputational poison, you can be crossed out of the system, even if you are my brother. At the same time, he still gives Andrew a soft landing. A house on the Sandringham estate is paid for personally by the king to avoid touching state money and close the topic for taxpayers. The slimming down of the monarchy and the bet on William. Simultaneously, Charles is doing what analysts have talked about for years, shrinking the monarchy to a core team. Fewer working members of the family, fewer subsidized apartments and offices for distant relatives, reducing excess levels of management in palace administration, tight control over expenses both from the sovereign grant and from the income of the Duchy of Lancaster. Buckingham Palace is turning from the monarch's home into a formal showroom and headquarters, with the center of gravity moving to Windsor. Against this backdrop, one family is increasingly in the center of the frame: William, Catherine, and their children. They carefully appear at key events, demonstrate the image of a modern but still fairy tale family, create a sense of continuity and the future of the monarchy, and simultaneously continue to trigger those same economic effects, from fashion to tourism. Essentially, Charles is rebranding the monarchy. The older generation fades into the background. The center of marketing is the young family, in whom the audience sees not only the crown, but also children, school, sports, and a more down-to-earth lifestyle. Number 1. Harry and Meghan, the most expensive loss. The story of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle is a separate series within the series. On one hand, their combined wealth is estimated at roughly $60 million. Thanks to Harry's inheritance, Meghan's acting career, and contracts with Netflix and other platforms. Their home in Montecito costs about $15 million. They are building a career outside the institution, recording podcasts, shows, writing books. On the other hand, for the monarchy, this is a lost, ultra-promising asset. Their 2018 wedding alone, by estimates, brought the British economy approximately $1.4 billion through tourism, souvenir sales, increased visitor flow, advertising campaigns, and media. If Harry and Meghan had remained within the system, they could have expanded the monarchy's influence in the USA and Canada, generated a fashion effect comparable to Catherine's, and shaped Britain's soft power in the Netflix generation world. Instead, they renounce official roles, talk about racism and the toxic atmosphere within the institution, sue for state security, and live by their own rules. For the monarchy, this is a painful demonstration of conflict. In the modern world, can one simultaneously be a living person and an asset of the brand that belongs to the country? There is no answer yet. There are only ratings reacting to every new interview, and economic estimates of how much money the monarchy will miss out on without such a media branch in California. Do baths with 7 inches of water pay for themselves? Let's sum up the money. Pros of the monarchy. The duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall bring in tens of millions of pounds a year and grow in value along with the land. The Crown Estate generates over £1 billion in profit a year, with the recent peak linked to offshore wind farms. The sovereign grant gives the king and working members of the family roughly £132 million for official expenses. Estimates suggest the monarchy brings the British economy about £1.8 billion a year through tourism, fashion, media, and the global brand royal family. Cons and questions. Why does one family not pay a 40% inheritance tax when the entire rest of the nation does? Why are palace renovations paid from the budget, not from the family's personal billions? Why are security, travel, protection, and a huge infrastructure essentially maintained by society for an institution based on birthright, not elections? The monarchy has a ready answer. We are a brand that brings the country more money and influence than it costs. The critics have their own. The brand can be preserved without hereditary privileges, through museums, cultural projects, and democratic institutions. The truth, as always, lies somewhere in between. But one thing is indisputable. In terms of strangeness, costliness, and historical inertia, the life of the Windsor family can hardly be compared with anything. This is not just a rich family. This is a global series where each episode costs tens of millions, and the script is written simultaneously on 3 levels: with money, with history, and with public opinion. Now the question for you, what truly surprised you the most? The tax loopholes worth hundreds of millions? The billions from children's cardigans? Or that the main hidden sponsor of royal luxury is the wind in the North Sea? Be sure to write your opinion in the comments regarding this family, and see you in the next episode on the channel for The Wealthiest. This is about luxury, wealth, and the lives of the most influential people on the planet. Thank you for watching, and right now watch one of our previous episodes. Believe me, they will definitely surprise you.